sex.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Podcast of Doom. It is I, Joseph, known in some circles as Mecha Joseph. This is kind of a strange situation I'm in. You see, I had another podcast going called the Doomed to Fail podcast, but I unfortunately had a little bit of a falling out with my co-host, Caleb. It's a long, tragic story in which I can't really discuss right now in this time or place, but needless to say, I had to scrap the entire podcast and start anew. However, in my time of grieving the loss of Caleb as my friend, a couple of sneak thief, ne'er-do-well people came and snatched the name Doomed to Fail right from underneath me, and they started their own podcast. I have no association with them. I don't know who they are, but they took the name of my podcast and started their own. Little do they know, I own the LLC. So that's going to be very fun for them if they get big enough to try to do anything serious. I guess they just find it fun to break the law. You look at those people in California who are looting restaurants and Payless shoes and things like that. That's how I feel. It's like, that's what happened to my podcast. They came and they just snatched it, and there's nothing I could have done to stop them. But never one to just lie down and die. I have decided to rebrand to this new brand and find myself a new and improved co-host. Her name is Ophamae. She is a server I met at a restaurant. Say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Good. How are you today? Are you happy to be here? Are you excited?
I'm excited. I'm nervous. I don't really know how this is going to go.
Have you ever been on a podcast before?
No.
Have you ever sat in front of a microphone before?
No.
You have a phone, like a smartphone?
Yeah, I have an iPhone.
Okay. You know what YouTube is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have a question.
You're supposed to ask questions before, like, what is it?
Sorry, I didn't realize we were starting so soon. But the Caleb guy, I don't understand.
What about him? I don't really want to talk about Caleb. I don't want his name said. What do you need to know?
Well, like, you said you were rebranding, like...
Yeah, I'm going in a direction of, like, kind of like how Disney will take, like, Snow White, Snow White's already. They'll take, like, Aladdin, and they'll be like, let's make Aladdin and the genie a female. And that's kind of what I've done. I've found someone you're very similar to Caleb.
Oh.
Yes, and so that's what I've done. I've found someone similar to him, and I've rebranded.
Well, if I'm similar to Caleb, then isn't that a bad thing? Like...
No. Caleb's not here anymore. I guess people are probably curious. He kind of became a product of his own design.
Uh-huh.
He's held up in a kangaroo court.
Okay.
Yes, and that's why he's no longer here.
Like, here with us among the living, or here at...
He's still alive, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's just not welcome on this podcast anymore.
I got you, sorry.
He's held up in a kangaroo court. He's a product of his own design. So what is the podcast of failed, or what is, hold on. The Podcast of Doom all about, you might ask yourself, 5 minutes into this. Each week, we're going to pick a different topic, and we are going to learn, and we're going to educate ourselves, similar to something like the Magic School Bus, or Bill Nye the Science Guy, or... You're supposed to say something now.
Oh, like Doc McStuffins.
I don't know what that is.
Are we not doing kids' educational content?
No.
Oh.
No.
Well,
I'm sure there will be
you
kids.
said Magic School Bus and Bill Nye.
The last
Sorry,
podcast I did, we had kids, we had elderly people. I saw a video, there was like an African tribe. They're like the spears and like grass skirts, and somebody like missionary was holding it up. And he's like, this Caleb. Like they're teaching him like this is Caleb.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you went that far.
Yeah, we made a few episodes until he became a product of his own design.
Yeah.
But that's the premise. We want to take one thing each week. And this week, what are we talking about?
Ooh, we're talking about psychological warfare.
We're going to talk about 2 psyops that I like and I think are hilarious and are very interesting, so stay tuned for that. But first, we're going to do a segment, I believe I told you about this, where you're going to talk about the news. This is what Caleb used to do. Mm-hmm. And so now it's your responsibility. So each week, Ophamae, do we even introduce you? Do I say what your name is? Mm-hmm. Yeah, her name is fucking Ophamae.
It's a nice name.
That's some clicks there, right? Right? Ophamae?
Yeah.
Did you get beat up? Like,
no.
No?
No.
No, they probably won't mess with you. You're like 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like a
tall kid.
Big Bird thing going on.
A little bit.
Things are just a bit different. You'd kind of be this, like, almost like a Sasquatch type of thing where you're like out in the woods in a cabin and you're like, that's where old lady Ophamae lives. Don't go near.
Yeah, like a witch. Like
yeah, and you come like barreling out and they're like, old tall. She's so tall, she picks you up with her long arms and puts you in her chimney.
Well, like, I think the thought behind it was my parents both liked different names, but
it just dawned on me you have parents.
Yeah, I think we all have parents.
Someone raised you.
Someone did, yeah. We'll talk about them at some point, but
that's exciting.
They were stuck at either Octavia or Ophamae, and I think Ophamae was the prettier sounding one. My mom says she wishes she named me Octavia instead because I was too much of a brute growing up.
It's not prettier, but only here will you get this kind of content, guys. Only here will you hear these life stories about Ophamae. This is getting boring. You're gonna have some.
I do have news.
Ophamae, fuck. My co-host is gonna have a segment each podcast, if we do another one, where she's going to read the most current news and give her takes on it.
All right.
Wait, where are you from? You're from. We didn't even talk about where you're from. It doesn't matter. Just fucking. We'll get to that. Just read the news.
All right.
Are you talking
as of
about
today.
Okay.
As of today, early this morning, legend has left us. Mr. Jimmy Buffett. He died at 76 in the early hours of the morning.
Okay.
If those of you who don't know who Jimmy Buffett is, it's the guy who sings Margaritaville.
I know a Jimmy Buffet.
Yeah.
That's how you pronounce his name. It's not Buffett.
Maybe it's just the Appalachian in me.
Do you think it's Warren Buffett or Warren Buffet?
Warren Buffett.
So you go to, and I know your family does this, you go to Golden Corral.
How did you know?
How did I know?
Yeah.
And what do you go to? Do you go to the Buffett?
Actually, Meemaw does kind of say it like that.
Meemaw?
Well, you spell it like Mamaw, but she's got a thick accent.
Meemaw.
Well, you're not saying it right.
Mamaw. Do you tie her to like a rocking chair when you go to town
and put her in the back like the old hillbillies?
The Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah, that's it.
Have you been on an airplane?
Yeah. I had to go to Vietnam once.
It was probably when Papa had to go back and atone for his...
No, actually, he didn't serve. He was still like a teenager when that draft happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
His older brother did. But
why did you go to Vietnam?
To get married.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're married?
Yeah.
To?
A Vietnamese man. His name's Nick. He's the love of my life. We got married in Grandpa's house.
How did that happen? How did you...
Well, I don't want to push a stereotype, but like where I'm from, there's not a lot of people, and Papa's one of 17, so I just knew he wasn't my cousin off the bat, so I was really into him at that point.
Must be an important quality for your people.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
And that was Ophamae News. Thank you. All this stuff in the news about Russia and Ukraine. It's got me thinking a lot about, like, Harry Potter.
Harry Potter?
Have you ever watched the Harry Potter movies?
No, I wasn't allowed to watch them until I got older.
Why
they
weren't
were
you allowed to?
satanic.
They were.
Yeah.
Do you know about Dumbledore?
Yeah, he's the gay one.
Is he gay?
Yeah.
They have a point system.
Yeah.
And it's like
50 points to Gryffindor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in the first movie,
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter and his friends, they're in Gryffindor. There's Gryffindor, Slytherin, the one with the badger.
Oh, Hufflepuff.
Yeah, that's the stoner kids.
I kind of, yeah.
And then
they get that reputation.
There's the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Ravenclaw. And every time, like, they give them, like, do something good. You know, it's 50 points from Ravenclaw, 10 points. How is the system weighed and measured? Who is the arbiter of this?
Is he the only one giving out points? Or
No, everyone can, all of the teachers. And, like, let me tell you something. Harry and his friends that first year of school are wild and out. They are fucking around with the Philosopher's Stone and, like, riding around on dogs and fucking minotaurs or whatever in the woods, fucking up unicorns. And, like, the whole movie, they're, like, 180 points from Gryffindor. And meanwhile, Slytherin is getting all the cheddar.
Are they?
Yeah, and, like, at the end of the movie, they're celebrating. I don't even know what you get if you fucking win. I guess just the clout, the street cred. And fucking Slytherin is sitting there, and they're having a Slytherin party. Like, everyone has to attend, and there's, like, these big banners. And Slytherin's won the house cup because they got all the points, and all the Slytherin kids are happy. They're little kids.
Yeah.
They're little stupid. They don't know anything.
They're happy that they got the clout. Yeah.
And then, suddenly, Dumbledore just stands up. And he's like, last night some crazy shit went on. Harry Potter was messing around with Voldemort. And he starts giving out points to Gryffindor. Oh. And he's like, Hermione was real smart and killed the plant monster. And then Ron was good at chess because he fought the chessmen. And then Harry Potter, and then Neville, like the little...
Okay, I remember the Ron part with the chess.
Yeah, he started giving out all these points. And it's like astronomical. He's just like, 100 points, 100 points. Gryffindor wins! And all the banners fly down, and like the Slytherin banners, they're replaced by Gryffindor. All the cakes and shit are now Gryffindor cakes. And all the Slytherin kids are like almost crying, and they take off their hats. And the Gryffindor kids are just wild, like twerking, and like they're having a great time now. Okay. And the Slytherin kids, they just like, why did they tell them they won? Yeah. How does Dumbledore just get to decide this? Mm-hmm. It's always bothered me. I mean, it's not fair. And you think to yourself, like, all these fucking psychopaths are coming out of Slytherin. Yeah. All the great killers, except for, and everyone's like, well, Peter Pettigrew was a Hufflepuff. The Rat Man. It's like, who the fuck? That's like 1 out of 100. There isn't any wonder that these kids are psychopaths when you raise them like that. Can you imagine that? If you won, it's like you win the NFL, or I don't like football, but you win the Super Cup or the Super Bowl, the World Cup, and it's like, wait, hold on. Actually,
this guy stopped a robber last night.
Yeah, we're just making up new shit. Like, this guy over here kicked the ball at this angle, and that's worth another point, so they win now. Uh-huh. It's institutionalized. Like, do they take the psychopathic kids or the special needs kids that have, like, ADHD or stuff and put them in Slytherin because they're like, that's like the bad people. Like, we want all these types of people in the same place to keep an eye on them.
Ooh, I never thought of that. I thought they were just all, like, rich kids. And then, like, they were, like, picking it because, like, I remember pure blood being thrown around. Yeah. Yeah. I knew that they were, like,
that's their way to fight back. They don't have anywhere to go. We're never going to get ahead. And it just doesn't stop there. We're going to get a job at the Ministry of Magic. It's like wearing the Star of David if you're the Slytherin.
What's the Star of David?
Okay, so... there are these people called the Jews.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Do you know what the Holocaust is? Yeah. To determine who was Jewish.
Oh, the badge?
Yes, the badge.
Oh, okay.
You just didn't know what it was called.
Yeah, sorry. I went to Christian school, so I don't think they talked about it very much. Yeah. Yeah, it was like Southern Baptist Christian school, so
you're not
probably on their side.
You are not religious, though.
No.
Okay, good.
Because of Southern Baptist Christian school.
Yeah, this would not be fun if you were. No. But that's what I'm saying. How is it fair? Because I took the Harry Potter quiz when I was a kid.
Yeah. Are you Slytherin?
Yeah.
I'm Slytherin.
Yeah, because we're not douchebags. And how in the hell is it fair? It's almost like J.K. Rowling is a hack writer who copied most of her work and slept her way to the top, and none of it's supposed to make sense. It's almost like she didn't really write her book and had influence from Hollywood producers later on. That's why the end books don't matter. But
well, I know she's skeezy anyway.
Why?
Well, like the gay Dumbledore thing. Like there was no evidence of him ever showing interest in another male.
He's an old fucking man. We don't know what he likes.
Old people can have like relationships and have love interests.
Dumbledore's an ass. You don't need that.
But like that's the thing. Everyone thinks that she's just like making him gay.
Yeah,
as like a,
well, she is.
You know.
Didn't she say Hermione was like black after the fact or something?
Yeah. Who
the fuck cares? I don't care.
I mean, like, there are, dude, I could go on. I don't know enough about Harry Potter, but like my uncle was into it. It always bothered him how like the only Asian character, and now that I'm like married to a Vietnamese man, now I understand their slang and their
their
remarks.
Wasn't she named like
slurs.
Chinky Chink or
Close?
Something
she was
horrible.
Named Cho Chang.
Oh wow!
All of my cousins. I have an Elizabeth. I have like Jenny. They're not doing these like, what is it called when like it's like Gary the giraffe, like those kind of like the name and the whatever they are kind of go. Like, that's what she did with a lot of them. And the black student.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name, though.
It was,
because they changed him.
It was like Rufus or something.
Rufus or something
yeah,
like that.
It was very,
Yeah, like
so
Rufus Robber or some shit.
I don't know. Who do you trust more, me or J.K. Rowling?
You.
Would you believe me if I told you J.K. Rowling is a big hoe?
Yeah.
And she slept her way to the top.
I don't know where you get this information, but I believe you already.
And then a lot of little whiny kids who were like, the better Slytherin type of kids are better than me. They read Harry Potter, and they're like, oh, this is just like my life. My parents don't let me do what I want, and I live under a cupboard.
Yeah.
And
I see.
Everybody
doing the Mary
feels,
Sue treatment.
yeah, everyone feels sorry for me, and I'm the chosen one. And I have a magic rock, and every time something happens, like, oh, let's give you this life hack, this invisibility cloak. This is such a great narrative tool. Voldemort is not in Palpatine at all. He doesn't act like him or look like him or talk like him at all.
Now, if you want to get into Star Wars, I can get into Star Wars, but...
No. There's a name for what Dumbledore does. It's called psychological warfare.
Oh.
Yeah, see how I did that?
Yeah, nice segue. I'm going to give that an 8.5 out of 10.
Psychological warfare is hilarious.
I didn't mean to peek at the screen, but if this is what we're getting into, I'm very excited to hear this.
Okay. Well, we're getting to that in a second. We're good. What do you think the definition of psychological warfare is, Ophamae?
Mind games? Like doing something not with like guns and artillery, but more just like to fuck with people?
You are wrong.
Oh?
I'm going to read you the definition of psychological warfare. Or psychological operations. Has been known for being...
It's been known for what?
I thought I had the definition up. You're just derailing this whole podcast, Ophamae.
Well, I mean, we'll get the hang of it. This is just the first episode.
I cannot... Where is the fucking definition of it? Psychological warfare involves the planned use of propaganda and other psychological operations to influence the opinions, emotions, attitudes, and behavior of opposition groups. It is warfare of the mind. Sometimes it is possible to win a battle without ever firing a shot. This has been something that has been used since probably the dawn of time.
Yeah.
When you have... you would think of cavemen, for lack of a better word, would paint their faces and wear skulls and hides of animals to make themselves appear greater than they are. Animals even employ these tactics. So you see like animals like butterflies with eyes on the backs of their wings.
Yeah. Or like a skunk with the tail.
A skunk, yes. I'm familiar with skunks. Dogs, cats are a better example, how they put their haunches up and hiss. It's to intimidate, not penetrate their psyche, intimidate. I said that very wrong, but elephants, I know, were something used by Alexander the Great in psychological warfare too. I mean, you've got these little soldiers from wherever the hell he is in the Middle East or Europe, and they've never seen an elephant before. What would you think if you've never seen an elephant? How would you describe that? Think about it. You don't need to. It's hypothetical. Perhaps one of the greatest, and I really want to talk about this gentleman at some point, but Genghis Khan was a master of this. He took over almost like half the known world by himself, if not more. He was such a great tactician and so scary. He was just scary. He would literally just win battles just by surrounding the villages and... Hold on.
Didn't he also, father most of Asia?
Yes. He was... Yeah. Give me 1 second. He would often employ tactics that made him seem like he had greater numbers than he did. He would put standing torches up or tie torches to the backs of horses and stuff, kind of like as you see those tiki sticks, to make it look at night like there were more people riding by than they had.
Got you.
He would ride in open fields, kick up dry dust, and you couldn't really see. He would catapult human heads into, and this is more of the terrorism aspect of psychological warfare, but he would catapult corpses and heads into villages and things like that. Very stereotypical.
He employed all of these often.
Oh, yes. This isn't... So here's the thing with Genghis Khan. I love Mongolians. I love Kublai Khan better, which was, I think, his son. I think his son. It was his son. And I read a lot of Kublai, and I use some of his philosophy in my own life. If I were going to start talking about Genghis Khan, it would feel like we need a whole episode. I want to focus on 2 American-run psyops that were done in more recent times that are absolutely hilarious. They're absolutely entertaining. But Genghis Khan, to name a few other things he would do, and this is a very famous one, is when he took captives, he would bury people up to their necks. So he would surround a city, and he never really fought. Mongol warriors didn't fight in the idea that you think they would. They'd be on horseback. Horses were a huge part of their civilization. They drank horse milk. They ate horse meat. They were horse people. You ever seen Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I was about to say.
The Dothraki
influence.
Okay, so the Dothraki were stupid because they had swords. Mongolians had Mongolian short bows. And they were masters of cavalry tactics. They would surround an entire army and just ride circles. Is that your foot?
Yeah.
It's your fucking... Okay.
You said I was long.
You
said I was long.
There's a line in the table. You see this?
I'm not past that.
Don't go past that line.
I'm not past it.
It's not me and my little Greek legs. Your legs are touching past this line.
No.
I'm going to get a stick. I had to do this, Caleb, and if you put your feet, you're going to get that poke.
Okay, they're technical.
Anyways, they were masters of mounted combat. They would just circle their army, lobbing arrows into the centers of the army.
Okay.
There was nothing they could do against it. Nothing. Is
that where most of the scenes of the arrows coming from the sun?
Yes, they would.
From?
He would also do that. He would shoot where the sun was, so they didn't see the arrows coming.
He was badass.
He was a genius.
Yeah,
he is one of the people that there's all these funny time traveler theories. He is one of the people that I would say is a time traveler. Another lovely thing Genghis Khan would do is when he'd surround like a village or a city, and he'd say, if you surrender and you become my vassal, you all live. If you don't, I'm gonna massacre all of you.
Yeah, easy choice.
And rape and be very brutal. Now you had to. He living under the Khans was actually quite fair. He wasn't that. It was hilarious. He ended up not being that because he just pretty much let you do what you want. One of his favorite methods, though, for killing is he'd take all the people and he'd make them dig these holes in the road, like roads, up to their necks, and he'd bury them up to their necks, and their heads would be sticking out. And then he'd ride his army over them, and they'd get trampled. And a few of them would live. And so, you're like, you know, you're an opposing Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
And you come by and you just see, like, people, like, heads sprouting out, and a few of them are still alive, and they're, like, psychologically broken. And, like, you know, like, think about seeing that. What would you think?
Well, it'd scare the shit out of me, and I'd probably pack it up and go home.
Another example.
And then give them my tax money.
Ophamae is Vlad Tepes.
The Vlad part sounds familiar.
Vlad the Impaler,
yeah,
otherwise
yeah.
known as Dracula.
Yeah.
He's a funny instance. He was given to the Ottomans, I believe. I don't have this written down, but and he grew to hate the Ottomans, his rivals, and then he was raised by them, and he just learned this deep-seated hating, and then they sent him back to when he was old enough, and he went back for revenge. We could talk about him. He's who Dracula was based off of. And vampires existed before Dracula did, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that. He just became the most famous one.
Okay.
And vampires also were much different. They were more like spirits than they were physical things. But anywho, could you imagine being such a horrible monster, such a killer, that an entire mythos of monsters based off of you, based around you?
Yeah, I had to do some wild shit.
Yeah, he would...
I knew some of the stuff he'd do, but...
I'm sure you know he was the Impaler. Yeah. He would take people and put poles up their booties, and then they would die. It was an agonizing death, and he'd sit out and eat and sop their blood up with bread. Mm-hmm. I don't think they ever found his body either. It's an interesting thing. People say that he's still around. He's immortal.
I hope the fuck he ain't.
And I just want to put this, just in case his ghost is listening. I've heard a lot of that. I've heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard it's propaganda, that he actually never did any of that cruelty. That's a rumor, but I don't know.
Okay.
They might like just exaggerate him. And you know what that's called? Do you know what it's called when you say that this person's really bad and he's doing all this stuff that he's not?
Defamation?
And what's defamation?
A lawsuit?
No. What are we talking about? Psychological warfare.
Okay.
That's defaming him.
Uh-huh.
So there's entire battles being fought. There's something called false victory.
Yeah.
Defense in depth tactics. It's letting your enemy think they win, so they let their guard down. So their inevitable defeat was even worse and more demoralizing. Kind of like how Slytherin thought that they had won the House Cup. Dumbledore knew those little didn't win. He just let them think that for a good hour. Then he took it all away from them. Gave it to Harry Potter. Like, Harry Potter's always going to win.
Yeah.
So we're only covering, really, the terror tactics. Mm-hmm. Being scary and peacocking and posturing in front of your opponent. What happens when you do the opposite? You try to become their friend. What happens at...
Like a backstabber?
No, not even that so much. You infiltrate a society.
Mm-hmm.
You approach a enemy as a friend, knowing that they're not your friend.
Okay.
The United States government gave Native Americans, I believe they were protesting, blankets with smallpox on them. They knew they had smallpox.
Mm.
They got sick with smallpox. They didn't have a lot of food. Guess who was there with doctors and food? Mm-hmm. And becoming more compliant. Coming to think of their captors, their dominators as their friends. They do this in prison camps. Famously, Chinese prison camps, they had something called foot in the door phenomenon, where a prison guard would ask prisoners to do something very small. They'd have a guy purposely walk by holding, like, let's say, boxes.
Yeah.
Like, hey, could you get this door for me real fast? And the prisoner, why wouldn't you do that? That's polite, right?
Yeah.
But it changes you psychologically because you're doing something compliant. Later, after doing this for a certain number of times, they started to think as the guards as friends and, things like that. They would
get to doing small talk and maybe admit to something.
Yes, they would be easier to interrogate when they tortured them.
Okay.
See, I know a secret.
What's your secret?
How do you truly and utterly defeat a human?
I'm going to guess friendship.
No, let me say. Oh. How do you defeat a human? You have a kingdom, you have rebels. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter where. You have rebel leader. You execute that rebel leader, he becomes a martyr. He becomes a symbol. He becomes Jesus. People will hoist flags under his name. Look through history at all these leaders that pop up. What happens to them?
Assassination?
Well, yes, that can happen, but in so many instances, dirt is collected on them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see them defeated in other ways.
Okay. Without getting physical, without giving something to
How do you
embolden
defeat
them.
the rebels? You expose their leader for something he did or didn't do, they did or didn't do. Hypocrisy in a lot of cases. The rebels, they're confused, lost, angry. They aren't focusing on their cause, and the enemy kingdom moves into the rebels with open arms and forgiveness and acceptance. You've changed them. How do you truly defeat a human? You change them. You change what they are. You change them in the inside.
And what we're talking about is like times that, like maybe even in some of the instance, like they were winning or like
Yes.
they were getting above and then they were like, this isn't good.
Yes, you completely made them... there's instances throughout history of entire brave civilizations becoming completely subservient. Sometimes overnight, through whatever means, whatever reason. You see it... I don't want to get political any more than I already am, but it's going on right now. You just don't realize it. There's things that are said, conditioning... all of this stuff's going on. Ophamae. And all we can do to change it is sit here in front of our little glowing microphones and talk and bitch.
Okay.
It's like what I said. People start looking at their captors and their oppressors sympathetically.
Well, I mean, most humans have a bit of empathy to them. They can
Yes.
kind of do that fill in
It seems
the blank
like
kind
the
of
less
thing.
empathy you have, the higher you can rise sometimes too. Is it easier to fake being unempathetic or empathetic? It's quite easy to pretend like you care.
I don't know.
You
There's
don't
some
think so?
people that cannot fake it well.
We live in a very strange time, age of information. We see so much of our society that we were never supposed to see. So much of it. So much. The smoke and mirrors are all gone.
Yeah.
I'm rambling. So that is a type of psychological warfare as well. There's false flagging. Or, well, let me share. I actually think I'm thinking of YouTube. Hold on.
You too?
YouTube.
Oh.
YouTube. Sorry.
I was like, what does that band have to do with it? Is this all about like when they put their fucking music on our iTunes?
That actually was.
Yeah?
Yes. That actually was. That was a corporation seeing if they could get away with putting something on your phone without your permission. Seeing if you'd be susceptible to advertising. That's the same thing. I mean, this is a minor thing, but it happens on like PlayStation and Xboxes. They're putting like advertisements, and they used to not. I don't think they're legally allowed to do that. They used to not be able to, but little hushed words were done between corps and America, or government, not just America. Now they can.
Okay.
Pretty soon, when you unlock your phone, you think that I'm funny. You think I'm crazy. You're going to unlock your phone, and there's going to be an ad for McDonald's. Hey, at this McDonald's, you can go there right now. You're driving by it.
Yeah.
And everywhere you look, there's going to be advertisements.
Like holograms in the sky.
Probably. Yeah.
I see it going there.
They don't make, and I mean, that's not warfare, but it's
still psychological.
The thing with you too, that literally was that. It was Apple testing the waters to see if they can just like, hey, whatever political candidate we like is going to be on your phone and giving you an announcement.
Yeah. Or like they wanted to see if the album itself would like even go platinum to see if people were susceptible and like
I think what it
gaslight themselves into thinking it was a good song.
What I'm saying with that is that was more, I said politics, that was more like financial purposes, like can we get advertisements on their phone? So we've talked about terrorism, Genghis Khan.
We've talked about you too.
Yes. Propaganda is a massive massive part.
That's like going to the streets, getting
pamphlets.
Those,
yeah, you see that a lot everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting political. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't trust any of them. But it's there, like North Korea is a shining example of this. You see these like funny pictures. We think they're funny. They're really not. North Korea is scary as fuck, but a giant bald eagle with like an American flag, like breathing an American flag, like fire, and Kim Jong-un standing in front of it, a Viking like fighting like this eagle. That's like propaganda poster that you'd see over there.
Okay.
And that is, it's not even for you to look at. It's for it to sink into your mind. I don't know if I'd mentioned this, but countless millions of hours of studying human minds has gone into the construction of this. All of these tactics we're discussing. People sitting around thinking and talking and studying people like lab rats. Even throughout history, even like these pictures that you look at and you think that's ridiculous. How could they do that? It seeps into your mind, that imagery, and you start to believe it. You start to change if you see that every day.
Because it's subconscious?
Yes, it gets into your subconscious, that image. Even if it's we think it's funny, but it's brightly colored. It's almost childish.
Yeah.
Same thing like McDonald's. Yellow golden M. If you see a yellow M, what do you think of? Cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
That.
Bad fries.
Yeah, bad fries. Well, people love their fries.
I love their fries, but no one agrees with me.
Right, like there's auditory propaganda. That's where they would blare certain states, or like not states, certain
states
governments. Yeah, they will blare constant speeches from the thing. They will make up things like our opposition, like the evil rebels are sacrificing babies tonight. Stay indoors. That is flat out lie.
Yeah.
Another thing is tearing down monuments and statues. If there's propaganda that opposes your propaganda, make your own. My favorite is false flag events. One of my favorite. Because that is when, let's say, a country will do something bad and blame it on their enemy.
Oh.
It's pirates, they used to hire, I love pirates and I love privateers, like I like Genghis Khan. Yeah. They would hire pirates to go pillage, like the British would be like, go pillage the Spanish pirates, and then they blame it on like, I don't know, the Ecuadors or something. They blame it on other people and be like, we didn't do it, Spanish. We don't know who the fuck did this. We should be
Venezuela all over again.
We should be friends. We British and we Spanish are having the same problem. Why don't we make charters? It's no matter the thing. There are many people, and I don't know if I'm one of them. I'm not going to lie. I don't know. I don't necessarily. But people think 9/11 was an inside job.
I grew up seeing that a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
I mean, okay, I do have a domino effect with that. Do you want to go into that? I can be short.
Yeah, if you'd like.
So, domino effect into that. Basically, what I understand, or what people have connected, is that the government was technically, in one way or another, without just putting it boldly, U.S. government funds. They were going through, like, basically they were like, we want a treasure, and we will pay you money to go excavate and be archaeologists out in the desert for this artifact. This is where we think it is. We can't get over there. Could you dig it up? And they give them the money to go be, I almost said artificer, to go and do archaeology. But what they were really paying them for was to go and like start these little rebel incel fights. And so like technically, yeah, they would find artifacts, but what they were ending up doing was going to like temples and just stealing and ransacking the place and just taking the shit that's in there and selling it or returning it to who hired them, and then they have the money to go buy the guns or go get...
It's funding rebellions.
Hobby Lobby did this. I swear to God. Hobby Lobby, the Christian store, did this. They wanted Jerusalem, like Jesus time artifacts. They wanted this for their museum.
The Museum of Hobby Lobby.
Well, obviously it's not called Hobby Lobby Museum, but it's in a city. They literally funded ISIS doing this. I swear to God, it's straight on.
I don't know if that's true, but I love it, and I hope it is.
If 9/11 wasn't an inside job, here's another domino for you. 9/11 directly leads to the fall of Ellen DeGeneres.
That is such a rabbit
popular.
hole. I don't want to go down that one.
I understand. That one's popular. People probably already know it. But what most people don't know is that Hobby Lobby funded ISIS and started that whole thing by doing this kind of like under the table, like, hey, we want this. Go get it for us. And they would ransack these temples, take these artifacts, and send it back. And then they have their money from their job.
Do you think it was about artifacts or oil?
Oil. 100% oil.
So I don't know. I'm not a political commentator.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a war strategist, but I am a student of psychology and the human behavior and the human mind. And I don't know if, from what I saw, because I was older than you when this happened, and what I witnessed during 9/11 and the politicians on TV and things happening and how it unfolded, I can't confidently say that I believed a lot of the politicians, including George W. Bush, knew that it was going to happen, just based on their behavior. If you cross-reference it with how they usually acted, it was a lot different. They were a lot more collected. Their speeches were... It's actually kind of hard to find a lot of that content because they were so bad because they just weren't like together.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a speech on hand about 9/11 happening.
Wasn't he at like a kindergarten?
Yes, watch the video. It seemed like he was very disturbed.
Yeah.
He was reading a book. They told him, I guess there was a terrorist attack in New York, and it was like buildings have collapsed. And he just kept reading, and he got up. And later that day, I believe he made a speech.
Mm-hmm.
But it was horrible. I'm sure you could find it. I'm not saying you can't.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about the president, though. Other people around it. People in New York, the mayor, the chief of the fire departments down there that helped clear that mess up. I don't know. I can't say. It could, if it...
I know you were older than me when it happened.
Right.
But, like, they really took Never Forget and ran with it.
Yeah.
And I remember watching, like, videos in, like, grade school of people jumping out of the buildings.
Yeah, I remember watching that.
You do?
On TV when it happened. And, don't get me started on the American education system. Our fucking teachers just let us watch it.
Yeah.
I was 7th grade, and they just turned it on. And, I saw people...
I was 3.
People jump out. We didn't really understand what was going on. Back when it first happened, everyone just... we believed it was just like planes crashed. There was an issue with planes.
Well,
we didn't think it was intentional, but... oh God, how are we talking about 9/11? The
government conspiracy.
The government certainly used it as propaganda, though.
Yeah.
Which, I guess, if you're going to use something as propaganda, you should use that. But I'll say this. There were fighter jets that were being told not to shoot the planes down. And people often use this as a catalyst that it was a conspiracy. Why? I
think it, for me, like, that's not what made me feel that way.
They didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So why would they could have been emergency landed for all they knew. So it's like, of course they didn't shoot them down. They would have murdered. They didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, they're civilians.
I think that was actually the plane heading to the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone always forgets the Pentagon got hit, but
I think what really, like, because again, I don't remember when it happened per se. Like, I remember it, but it feels like a movie. Like, it didn't feel real in the moment. So, like, my memory is really hazy of it. But I remember, like, my mom crying.
Yeah.
And saying everything was going to change. And then, like, now that I'm older, I remember, like, how the internet was before 9/11.
Yeah.
How security changed in airports. Like, we got very much, like, way more monitored after that happened.
Yes. They started listening to your phone calls. How do you defeat a human? You
change them.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like that point got changed.
Mm-hmm.
People would argue the same thing with COVID. Everything changed.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of vampires, I'd like to talk about this psyop. We were supposed to start talking about this.
Yeah.
After Vlad. That's how I planned this, but you completely derailed it talking about your opinions on.
I was about to say we haven't talked about vampires in a minute.
Yeah, so I want to talk about one of my favorite.
I derailed it.
Do you have anything else to say?
Well, no, I'm ready to hear about the vampires you're talking about, but I didn't derail it. You started a rant.
So here's something you should know. I can edit this, and I can make you look like a complete fool. This is not live. You understand that?
Yeah.
Yes. I could literally just edit this like, I hate black people. My name's Ophamae. This is my address. I can AI your voice. I don't even really need you. Now that I have this much recording done, I could just make you say whatever I want. So just always keep that in mind. Anyways, do you know where the Philippines are?
I'm aware.
I've heard about this event a while. My grandfather told me about it. And the best way to kind of recount this is actually just to read an article.
Okay.
This is from a website called How Stuff Works, and it's written by a journalist named Dave Roos. And it's called How the CIA Used Vampires to Fight Communism in the Philippines.
Okay. I'm sorry. Before we start, what you said your grandpa told you about this? Was
Yes.
this like he was there or?
He just told me about it.
Okay.
He wasn't a part of it, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But he was in the Philippines for a while.
Oh, okay. So he probably heard it from
Yes,
passing.
he heard it. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm going to kind of read the article and I'll kind of paraphrase it and we will investigate it and discuss it as is we do on this podcast. Did you know there are more than 7,000 islands that make up the Philippines?
I didn't know it was 7,000, but that's a lot.
Yes, a former Spanish colony is home to 175 different languages and a wide array of cultural practices. But if there's one indigenous belief that survives centuries of Spanish rule and continues to haunt the Philippines' nightmares, it's the terrifying boogeyman known as the Aswang.
Aswang.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Aswang, it's not pronounced asswing, like an asshole and a penis.
Say asswing.
Aswang. The Aswang doesn't have an exact match in Western pantheon of monsters. Some people call it a vampire, but it feeds on more than just blood. It feeds on organs, unborn children, and phlegm. And it can take the alternate forms like a giant pig, a nasty dog, or even a man-sized vulture. Whatever shape it takes, the Aswang is widely believed to be a source of sudden illness, mysterious deaths, and other misfortunes in the Philippines.
So Aswang is Satan.
Aswang is a type of creature they think is comparable to a vampire. Funny thing, almost every culture has a legend about a vampire.
And a flood.
And a flood, yeah.
Well, worldwide flood, but yeah.
Believe it or not, back in the Cold War craziness of the 1950s, a CIA operative in the Philippines took advantage of the Aswang superstition to scare out the communist rebels. And how he did it, puncturing a victim's neck with 2 vampire-like holes, hanging them from a tree and draining their blood, might have been scarier than the Aswang legend itself.
Oh, he did this to
a CIA operative took a body,
mm-hmm.
slashed holes in its neck, like vampire bite, hung them upside down and drained them of blood, and then left them to be found. I mean, that's the story.
Yeah.
But,
he's taking it right to Genghis Khan's level.
Yeah. Well, you don't think they still do stuff like this?
Well.
Yeah. Jordan Clark is a filmmaker and researcher who had been devoted for years of studying the Aswang lore in the Philippines. He runs the Aswang Project website and directed a documentary called Creatures of the Philippines. I want to tell you real fast, people still think they see these things today. There's sightings of Aswangs, yeah. The Aswang is a very old cultural belief that means something different to each region of the Philippines, says Clark in an email. The belief that the Aswang was the main bringer of awful things was likely very prevalent before Spanish arrival. In 1589, a Spanish friar, John D. Oh my God, what is he talking about? Why do I read, I shouldn't even read these out loud. I don't want to have to actually work. I don't want to take notes, you know? I just want to sit down and do a podcast. I miss Caleb. Before he became a product of his own design. Got held up in a kangaroo court. The vampiric humanoid form of the Aswang lurks on rooftops at night and can lower its long tongue through a lick hole in the ceiling. The Oswing is believed to target particularly vulnerable victims, like pregnant women and children, either by sucking out their insides with its prehensile tongue or infecting them with a deadly disease. There's something, actually, I believe that they took inspiration for an Oswing, is lickers from Resident Evil. Are you familiar with them?
No.
They climb on the ceiling and they have tongues that, it's like straws.
I didn't know.
No?
No, this is actually, like, I got chills when you said that.
Yeah,
but...
they could be real. You don't know that.
I hope not.
Are you one of those, like...
Is it, like... Are they implying that, like... Because it said unborn children earlier in the article. Are they implying that the tongue goes up there and just, like...
Usually how an article works is you read it, and it tells you the information you want to know.
You're reading it.
I know, and you interrupted it.
Oh.
So why have you not figured this information out yet? Are you one of these people that are like the country people that believe all the like magic, like voodoo, mountain witchery shit?
Okay, first off, derogatory. Second
How
off,
is that derogatory?
mountain people?
That's
There's
a derogatory
two types
term.
of mountains in the... I'm Appalachian. Get it right.
That's not how you pronounce it.
Start with me. And second off, yes, I do believe in superstitions, but I'm not, like, so silly to believe in Bigfoot.
You ever seen an ass wing, but its tongue through a lick hole?
I don't know what that... Oh my god. I don't know what the lick hole is. Is that what it's talking about?
It says lick hole in this article. I like this author.
Wait, really?
Yeah, lick.
Where?
Oh, it's right there. I kind of got it.
Sorry.
It says lick hole. It does. In blue.
Lick hole in the ceiling. What the fuck?
Your family didn't have lick holes in their ceiling?
No, we had 10 roofs.
Let me see what the lick hole is. He has it highlighted so you could click on it. It probably...
Is a definition?
Oh, Jesus. No, it actually...
A lick hole? The only thing I can think of having a hole in the house for is, like, if you have to build a fire.
These are the Philippines.
Yeah, and they like, have, like, kitchens, and they have the fire
Philippines,
in the middle.
You don't know what's going on there. They could have, like, pet insects that they... It's like a doggy door. They're like, let the praying mantis come in. You don't know what happens in the Philippines. Don't even pretend.
You're right. Okay. Making an ass out of me.
Clark says that the belief in the Aswang is strongest in regions of the Philippines that were heavily influenced by Hinduism before the Spanish arrival, and that other regions have their own explanations for illness, miscarriage, or death. It was a way to explain such occurrences and enlist in the help of a shaman to use remedies and rituals to heal the person and vanquish the unwanted spirit, says Clark, who says that belief in Aswang can still wreak havoc in rural pockets of Philippines even today. Enter Ed Lansdale, admin turned CIA agent. Look at this guy.
Oh, he looks just like how I thought he'd look.
Look at this, like, absolute monster.
He looks like the dad from The Middle, and Phil Dunphy had a boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before the outbreak of World War II, Edward Gary Lansdale was a San Francisco-based advertising whiz with clients like Levi Strauss. Woo! You know who that is? Mm-hmm. Levi Strauss?
I mean, I've heard Strauss and, like, Marvel characters have been made after him. Like, they've used inspiration from what he did.
That's exactly what I'm sure most people think when they think of Levi Strauss. Also clients like Levi Strauss, Wells Fargo, and Nestle. You know what Nestle is?
Yeah, I know what Nestle is.
You know what chocolate, like the chocolate?
Yeah, with the little nuts in it.
You know what chocolate is?
Yeah?
No, where does it come from?
Cocoa beans?
You know what? Have you ever seen one?
Not in real life, no, but Google images.
When America entered the war, Lansdale joined the Army like 100,000 patriotic GIs. The Army recognized Lansdale's talents and recruited him to the Office of Strategic Services, a precursor to the CIA. Mm-hmm. Do you know what CIA stands for? Central Intelligence Agency.
Ah.
Yes.
I was thinking of FBI.
Yes. This is why we're here. We're here to learn. Not be judged. Quit playing with that. Lansdale was assigned to the Philippines because Magsaysay, I guess that's a name. Lansdale was assigned to the Philippines because Magsaysay and his U.S.-backed regime were fighting in a protracted war against communist rebels known as the Hooks, or the Hooks. It's pronounced Hooks. During World War II, the Hooks were a heroic Philippine army that fought the Japanese. Their full name, it's got their full name. I can't pronounce that. I'm not going to try to. So the People's Anti-Japanese Army. Mm-hmm. But after the war, the Hooks and their leader, Luis Taruk, broke with the government over controversial Philippine Trade Act of 1946, which handed the American government equal rights to the Philippines' natural resources.
What are their natural?
I don't know that, but does that sound okay to you?
No.
You get what happened there. Or did I read that, Bod?
You read it quickly. It's still absorbing.
So they basically after World War II, they're like, sign this piece of paper, and that means the Americans can have access to all your shit.
Yeah.
Just
maybe it was oil.
I'm not sure if it was oil. It's probably more like, I don't know what's in the Philippines. The Hooks, I know my grandpa was there. He was probably one of the people exploiting it, knowing my luck. The Hooks had legitimate complaints since the free elections in the Philippines were rigged by U.S. operatives, and the CIA also controlled the Philippines' free press. But to hear Lansdale explain it in his memoirs, in the midst of wars and American mission to the southeast, he was sent to the Philippines to protect the democratically elected government from dangerous communist rebels. My orders were... What kind of voice did this guy have?
Way more nasally.
My orders were plain, wrote Lansdale. The United States government wanted me to give all feasible help to the Philippine government in stopping the attempt of the communist-led Hooks to overthrow that government by force. My help was to consist mainly of advice where it was needed and desired. Sure. Mm-hmm. It was up to me to figure out how best to do this. Conventional military men think of combat psywar almost exclusively in terms of leaflets or broadcasts appealing to enemy to surrender. He continued, early on, I realized that psywar had a broader potential than that. The eye of God, the other psywar tactic. Lansdale and his CIA team got busy doing military versions of market research. According to William Bloom, author of Killing Hope, U.S. Military and CIA Intervention Since World War II.
Killing Hope Since World War II. That's a fucking title.
Yeah. Lansdale's team conducted a careful study of the superstitions of the Filipino peasants in the Hook areas, wrote Blum. Their lore, taboos, myths were examined for clues to appropriate appeals that could wean them from supporting the insurgents. According to Blum, one of Lansdale's tactics was to fly over Hook-controlled areas in a light aircraft and broadcast mysterious curses.
I'm guessing what that means is like a witch. Like, making it sound like someone's cursing the camp.
Yeah.
Not like, motherfucker.
Yes. Yeah, like curses. Like curses. The tactic reportedly succeeded in starving some Hooks units into surrender. In his memoir, Lansdale brags about improvising a bit of homemade voodoo he called the Eye of God. It was based on World War II psywar tactics of learning the names of individual German officers and announcing them on the battlefield over loudspeakers that they would be the next to die if they didn't surrender. Lansdale's colorful twist was to paint a cryptic symbol he called the Eye of God outside the homes of the suspected Hook sympathizers. The mysterious presence of these malevolent eyes the next morning had a sharply sobering effect, wrote Lansdale. But Lansdale was clearly proud of his most brazen and bloody psychological warfare operation in the Philippines. According to Lansdale, a Hook squadron had set up a camp on a hill outside the village. The village leader claimed that the Hooks threatened to kill any village bigwigs who didn't cooperate. Lansdale sent in a CIA-trained combat psywar squad with clear instructions. First, the Philippine PSYOP agents were to plant stories amongst the villagers that an asswing was haunting the hill where the Hooks were camped. Then, after a few days, enough time for the rumors to infiltrate the Hook encampment, it was time to strike. Here's how Lansdale described the operation in his own words. The psywar squad was set up on an ambush along the trail used by the Hooks. When a hook patrol came along the trail, the ambushers silently snatched the last man of the patrol, their move unseen in the dark night. They punctured his neck with 2 holes, vampire fashion, held the body up by the heels, and drained the blood out of the corpse back to the trail. Wait, was he alive when they did this?
It seems like it.
Wow! I never knew that part of the story. When the Hucks returned to look for their missing man and found their bloody comrade, every member of the patrol believed that the Asswing had got him and that one of them would be next if they remained on that hill. When daylight came, the whole Huck squadron moved out of the vicinity. How did my grandpa know about this? Was he one of the guys that was there?
I swear to God.
He probably was.
He probably was. He's probably the one that held him up.
He probably was pretty strong. To be clear, a CIA... He has to enunciate it.
Yeah.
To be clear, a CIA trained squad of Philippine soldiers kidnapped a Hux fighter and killed them vampire style, leaving their bloodless corpse behind. Clark of the Asswing Project thinks that's pretty messed up. To me, this is brutal and horrific scene with or without an Asswing lore. Yeah, said Clark. It's not even clear if the Hooks believed it was an Asswing killing the people or if they were just horrified by the desecration of a deceased. So, like, they don't even know if that was the reason they moved. They could have just seen this and the leader of the Hooks was like,
Jesus.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy Americans, man. They can have our resources.
God.
In his research, Clark found that people in the region of the Philippines believed in the creature called, I can't even pronounce this, Mananagal, a self-segmenting type of the Asswing that fed off the fetuses of pregnant women, not the Dracula-style bloodsucker. So it wasn't even the right kind of Asswing.
Okay.
There were no vampiric-like Asswing lore in the region, so I am skeptical that this Psy-War tactic even worked, says Clark, who is the Asswing expert, other than the terrifying visual of seeing your friends strut up like that. Clark also points out that the Asswing scare tactic was apparently only used once to dislodge the Huck squadron of between 100 to 300 soldiers. It didn't even win the entire war. That's my dog coughing. Easy. Okay. It didn't even win the entire war. In the end, though, the Huck insurgency was worn down by years of fighting the U.S.-backed regime. Louis Tarak, the Huck leader, surrendered in 1954.
So that was just to fuck with him, and it didn't even seem to have worked.
Yeah, but that Lansdale guy was real proud of it.
Yeah, very.
He thinks he did like he was the reason they won. The old vampire flim-flang sure did get those Hucks out of that hill, didn't it? It's like, yes, Lansdale, we remember. You're real cool.
You think he, like, continued to talk about it?
Probably, yeah. He's, like, sitting at these dinners, like, did I ever tell you guys about the vampire story? Yes, you did.
Gets into it again.
Say, you guys want to watch some Twilight?
Say it. Out loud.
Yeah.
It's an Asswing.
It had worked. It got the hooks off the hill.
Mm. I mean, I know, like, technically we're not supposed to look at things, especially, like, stuff that happened back then in a modern standpoint, but, like, I think even at that time, what they did, even if they didn't believe that it was a creature, that still is a very shocking and, like, very disrespectful thing to do.
That seems to be what the guy Clark said, the Asswing expert. Mm-hmm. That's an expert on the folklore. It's like, it wasn't that. It was like the shock of finding someone upside down and
drained of all of their blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty freaky.
It honestly could have started a whole new branch of their lore on those things.
Yeah.
If they even did believe it.
Yeah, it
like, they could have thought the Americans brought something that did that, but...
Yeah, it's one of the more extreme examples that I personally know of doing something like that. This next one I want to talk about, I'm not sure if it's pretty well known, so I don't know if I'm going to be relaying anything. Look at my dog. Oh. Relaying anything that you haven't heard before.
Okay.
But this took place during the Vietnam War.
Are we getting into the...
You know what I'm talking about?
The ghosts?
Operation Wandering Soul.
Yeah.
Your husband, you told me, is from Vietnam.
Yeah, my uncle is actually terrified of ghosts because of this operation.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he was a child. I don't
think he was born yet,
but like his parents were young adults.
His parents did it. What do you mean? Are you talking about, you said your uncle?
Yeah, well, on his side.
So your husband's uncle heard this?
Okay, he's not that old. But
okay.
His parents were young adults or teenagers in that phase where they're turning 18.
Vietnam.
And they're in Vietnam. They lived in a village near Cambodia, and this operation went along the coasts and along the like borders and such, and I believe like closer to where the Viet Cong were at. But
yes,
like it spread way further than where they were doing this, and
wow,
his parents are terrified of ghosts. He's terrified of ghosts because of this operation.
Let me back up for the audience. This is incredible because I did not know. I wasn't expecting you to even know what this is.
Yeah. Oh, I know everything.
People listening to this may not know what I'm even going to talk about.
Yeah.
But that's really crazy that you had that input. I wish we would have. Maybe we could have probably set this up a bit better if I had known that, but. So basically, I'm going to read this whole thing, but to summarize so people can quickly understand. In Vietnam War, the United States forces sound blasted basically sounds of ghosts. In Vietnam, like traditional Vietnam funerals and ghosts begging the Viet Cong to surrender. And I'm going to actually I'll play for the audience listening, and I'll give a warning because it's actually quite kind of disturbing. You don't even know what it's... I might read along with it so you understand what it's saying, but it's that's really crazy. I'm kind of shocked.
Oh yeah, like I didn't know he was terrified of ghosts, and I grew up watching Ghost Adventures, so like I've always wanted to go to like the Tennessee State Penitentiary and like investigate. Like I'm not scared of them at all. But when I moved in after we got married, it's customary for like the family to live together for a little bit.
Right.
And it was just a good time because COVID was about to start. So it ended up working out well. But they had me come in and I'm watching the show and he's like, turn it off now or I'll kick you out. And like, granted, this is my parents, like my in-laws' house.
Yeah.
But he was so mad. He was like, I will put you in the camper if you keep watching this. I don't want to watch it. And I'm like, okay. And I turn it off and like he goes to his room and I ask Mom, I'm like, hey, what's up with Uncle Trin? Like, why was that his response? Like, usually he's so quiet. He doesn't even like, he'll say hi when he gets home, but that's about it. He doesn't talk to me really. Not because he doesn't care for me. It's just, he has nothing to say. He's a very quiet, reserved dude. He'll just sit there with his arms crossed and look at you, really.
Okay.
A listener. Well, he snapped at me, like, I mean, pointing his finger, screaming. Obviously, I'm not going to scream into the mic, but, like, hollering that he'll kick me out. And I'm like, hey, what was that about? And she's like, have you heard about the Vietnam ghosts?
Well, what?
And she tells me about this.
Well, what happened? Do you know what happened? I mean, you're telling, like...
Yeah, she told me about it.
Can you tell me? Like, what was he... Like, what... Like, play by play. I mean, you're, like, obviously story. He's in Vietnam and he hears this thing. But, like, is there, like, more to the story than that you know of? So,
okay, for him, again, it's his parents that went through this with the speakers and all of that. He himself inherited that fear from them.
Because they told him. Okay.
They told him.
That's good.
But they believed it. It wasn't like us talking about it, knowing there's speakers in the woods. They were like,
well, what about Trin? Uncle Trin? Does he know that there are speakers?
I've tried. Yeah, we've brought that up, but it's like he doesn't absorb it.
What if first? Let's back up. Mm-hmm. So first of all, just so you know, I'm not afraid of ghosts at all.
Yeah,
because they're not real. Anyways, Uncle Trin, do you know how I came to you and I'm like, Ophamae, I'm going to put you on a podcast and you're going to be like, you know, your soul-crushing life is going to be elevated and like you're going to be a co-host and respected and all that. What is the odds of me getting Uncle Trin and kind of like, you know, conning him into coming here with you?
Oh,
like
no.
I conned you.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
There was an incident after I found out that he was scared of ghosts. But to get back to it.
Well, an incident.
Yeah. Okay, like, I think it would be better if you read the story and then I tell what I did to him after we read the story.
Well, how about, do you have his number?
No.
Oh, well, I would like to
Like-
get Uncle Trent on the phone and you being like,
He knows.
Uncle Trent, I should have listened! And I'm going to go be like, oh, and then play the Vietnam ghost. And
I
like,
don't. No, he doesn't have. His phone is like.
so
he's
ghosts
got
have
a
got him
Nokia.
so scared that he has a Nokia.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, we'll read the story.
Yeah, read
and
the
then-
story, and then I'll tell you what I did to him because it was actually quite mean.
And he doesn't talk to you anymore.
Barely. He'll say hi.
I
when
have.
He comes in the door.
I'm very good with people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very good with people. Maybe I could have. I can
Let me-
intervene and
no.
I can try to like get you guys to have
If
like
I'm
a
involved,
reunion.
he's not going to get on the phone.
But
no,
what about
Listen.
who does he trust?
barely anybody.
Does he trust your husband?
No.
We can build on
No,
that.
no.
You think he trusts me?
No, he doesn't trust.
Look,
no. Okay, listen.
Do you know
He-
people? Listen, people love the sound of my voice. All you need to do is get him on the phone, and I'll be like, Uncle Trent, listen to me. Ophamae, I know she's just a pain in the ass.
Oh, okay.
I know how she's been like putting bed sheets on and running around scaring you.
Oh, no, it was way worse than that.
Well, it's okay. Tell me then. I gotta hear.
We should get to the story soon, but I'll give
It
you
seems
a
like you
small
don't want to
version.
tell me this.
I think people will think I'm a bully for this, which I kind of am.
Well, Uncle Trent is not. You
So-
know, you were sitting there trying to watch that
yeah.
terrible TV show, and he
Yeah,
yelled at
I
you.
agree. It's just more
He deserved
nostalgic, and it's fun to watch Aaron scream and cry.
Who's
but
there? Oh, that
he's
guy.
a character on the show.
Don't they argue with the ghosts?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They provoke him all the time.
But why would they do that? The ghosts are dead. Why do they?
They're doing it to get a response out of them. Now, you said you don't believe in ghosts. I do. I just don't think.
Well, I figured that.
I think if you go in there and you
But
do
you
what
don't.
they do,
You
and
don't
you're not
respect
ready.
Uncle Trent believing in them because you just were blaring ghost adventures when he has ghost PTSD. Yeah. That's like people that were kidnapped and like made to do human centipede shit, and you're just like sitting around watching human centipede all day.
Basically, dude. Yeah. You should read this first so people know what it is, and then when I tell my story of what I did to this man, you'll understand a whole lot more. You have to hear.
Okay.
Hear this
Okay.
part
So you
first.
want me to get to what I'm?
Yes, you
Hold
need
on.
to
Let me
talk-
let me get a gummy bear.
You have to talk about what
Ow.
actually happened, the real operation.
Operation Wandering Soul was a propaganda campaign and psychological warfare effort exercised by U.S. forces during the Vietnam War. It was an attempt to increase desertions and defections from the Viet Cong forces and weaken their morale. Like most cultures, Vietnamese culture includes beliefs and rituals that show respect for the dead. Vietnamese culture calls for a proper burial, and it is believed that it does not occur. The soul of the deceased continues to wander the earth, thus becoming a wandering soul, equivalent to a ghost or a spirit. It is this is a kind of an excerpt here. It is the Vietnamese belief that the dead must be buried in their homeland, or their soul will wander aimlessly in pain and suffering. Vietnamese feel that if a person is improperly buried, then their soul wanders constantly. They can sometimes be contacted on the anniversary of their death and near where they died. Vietnamese honor these dead souls on a holiday when they return to the site where they died. The U.S. used this to their advantage and tried to trick the Viet Congs into leaving by playing the audio recordings of their dead friends wandering around. U.S. engineers spent weeks recording eerie sounds and altered voices, which back then was not as easy as it is today.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
They
so,
put a lot of time and money.
they did,
in
and I'm
effort.
gonna play it after this. The United States of America also brought in South Vietnamese soldiers to what do they tell these guys?
Probably what they're
These
doing.
South Vietnamese soldiers. If you hear something, my dog's drinking some water, so you're just gonna have to deal with it. The United States of America also brought in the South Vietnamese soldiers to record the audio saying over the tapes for further authenticity. The tapes, dubbed Ghost Tape Number 10, was played on loudspeakers in areas the Viet Cong actively, generally at night. Helicopters were also deployed at the time to broadcast recordings in which the pre-recorded voices called out to their descendants in the Viet Cong to defect and cease fighting. The United States also used patrol boats going up and down the river playing the ghost tapes. The United States would also deploy special infantry to infiltrate enemy lines and play the recordings too. Most of these types of operations did take place at night. Now here's the results. The overall success of these ghost tapes was mixed, because in the event that the Viet Cong soldiers knew it was just a recording, their immediate response would be to fire upon where the sound was coming from. I love that. And it in turn showed their position in the jungle, and it gave them away. Mm-hmm. The Army concept team, which had been responsible for Wandering Soul, admitted that the Viet Cong realized what was going on. Yeah, they're not stupid. but still insisted that the operation had been a success despite presenting no evidence of their claim. That sounds very American. The United States ultimately stopped Ghost 10 in the early 1970s. A similar program was prepared for use in the Congo, which recordings being produced to simulate angry local gods as a form of population control. So when they had too many babies going on, they'd scream at them. However, it was never brought to use. So I'd like to play this audio, and I'm going to try to read the subtitles. Mm-hmm. And I'll do my best to read it. And I will warn everybody, since this was recording taken, like the Vietnam War, the sound quality is very bad. There really is no good sound quality. You hear a lot of music. Well, it's, I guess, Buddhist funeral music. Mm-hmm. So that's what's kind of bizarre about it when you first hear this kind of weird, eerie sound. And it is something. It's something to listen to. It's very interesting. It's about 4 minutes. 4 minutes and 32 seconds, to be precise. And I will warn everybody, I'll give you a trigger warning. If you're sensitive to weird, spooky stuff, this will be... You probably won't like this. I would not listen to it. I'd skip ahead. I generally don't give trigger warnings because I don't care, but I don't know. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. And I'm just going to read the subtitles. Start. Fucking start. Okay. Daddy, come home with me. Come home, Daddy, come home. Who is it? Who is calling me? My daughter? My wife? Your father is back home with you, my daughter. Huh. Your husband is back home with you, my wife. My body is gone. I am dead, my family. Tragic, how tragic. My friends, I come back to let you know that I am dead. I am dead. I am in hell. Just hell. It was a senseless death. How senseless. How senseless. But when I realized the truth, it was too late. too late. Friends, while you are still alive, there's still a chance that you can be reunited with your loved ones. Do you hear what I say? Go home, friends. Hurry. Go home, my friends, before it's too late. Go home, my friends. Kind of spit through. VD Ban. VD, this is some kind of Vietnamese saying, I think. Can you imagine?
Right.
Can you imagine that you're middle of Vietnam, your little, let's just say your little Trin, your little 3-year-old, let's say he's 5 or 6, and, you know, your mom and your dad, mama and papa are there, and you're, like, living in the jungles of Vietnam. You don't have, like, a TV. You've never seen fucking Star Wars.
Yeah.
You're just, like, having your family, little happy Vietnamese family, wartime, like, it's happy. My good son, Mom. Yes, little Trin. Yes. What about my good son, Papa? Yes, Trin, you're a good son. And then you just hear, I'm dead. Oh, my fucking God.
Turn back now.
Oh, no, God. So,
yeah.
I'll give some criticism. The screaming.
Yeah, it's a little overdone.
The screaming was good. That was scary. The beginning where the guy was just like,
oh, yeah.
Ah! And he was crying.
Mm-hmm.
That was real. The guy they had reading the lines phoned that shit in. That was not convincing. That's what, like, if I heard that, I'm like, who? Little baby man. Like,
I think
like he's like whining. Like, it's a whiny.
I think he should have maybe took a more director approach to that and been like, yeah, your script's great, but I can do better.
Yeah, and like it just sounded very
fake.
Compared to the rest of it. It didn't sound like I mean I'm sure the translation, but he's just like it kind of went through it conveniently, like every person like it's like mom, dad, husband, wife, it's
daughter,
like yeah, everybody. If it was just been like screaming,
yeah, I think that would have been a ton more scary.
Yeah.
I think they wouldn't have figured it out as fast, for sure. But you also, like...
Yeah, if you're a little Trin.
If you're a little Trin, or if you're, young parents or young people in general, like, we heard from the article that the Viet Cong figured it out very quickly.
Right.
But we've talked about how rumors can be used as well.
Right.
From the previous story. And, they weren't on the front lines of the war. Like, they weren't in the middle of Viet Cong versus the Southerns.
Right.
They are on the other side of Vietnam. Right?
Okay.
They didn't hear this with their own ears.
They just heard about it.
They heard about it.
Okay.
And so, what a lot of people, Saigon. Saigon is now Ho Chi Minh City because it was taken over by the Viet Cong, and then the Viet Cong won and they changed the name. It used to be Saigon. Right?
Yeah, psych warfare.
Yep. There are family from Saigon. So when they would go to travel to go see in that family that was a little closer to what was going on during the Vietnam War, and they heard what they were talking about the ghosts and stuff, because they were just civilians. Not all of them fought. Some of them still worked at the grocery store, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they kept that going. Like, there's a lot of people in Vietnam that are scared to death of ghosts. Like, if you did ever capture a ghost on camera and you showed it to one of them would have a heart attack.
Yeah, it's not like America where the ghosts just like, they move like a coaster for like, it's like these ghosts are like, it's like metal. Yeah, it's metal as fuck. Yeah.
So, are you ready for what I did?
Yeah, I want to hear about what you did.
So, like I said,
You didn't do like your own site, like
No.
Okay.
Nothing that crazy. No. So what I did was like 2.5 months to almost 3 months later from the Ghost Adventures.
After he told you to turn the TV
After
off.
he told me to turn that off, I was watching it on my phone for dinner. He, again, stormed off, told me he'd kick me out if I ever watched that in front of him again, went to his room. Okay, I get the story from Mom and Dad about this operation exactly and how it affected the common folk. Everyone talks about how it's a military failure, but they don't talk about how it actually did shape the way that civilians feel about ghosts now. So they tell me about it. They even showed me the recording before you did.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dad's dad, my grandpa,
Yeah.
or in-law.
You call your family dad.
They're family now.
Okay.
Yeah. I claim them. My grandpa fought in the war.
Papa.
No. His
So I'm sorry, this is confusing.
Sorry.
Yeah,
when an Appalachian gets married, that's family too. So if I'm talking about my side of the family, I'm going to say Papa and Mama, and
Kind of like a fungus. Like you just kind of take over different parts of the world and just...
That's so funny. Because my family we call each other cockroaches because, like I said, Papa had 17 siblings, so we are kind of spread out. But getting back to the story.
17.
So, Bon Wai, I know I just butchered that a little bit. Bon Wai, he fought in the Vietnamese War on the southern side. He got captured.
Uh-oh.
And was tortured. And because the U.S. got him out, he could only take a few of his kids, so Dad was left there at 12. He had to get a job at 12. That's how he met Trin and his family. They kind of helped take care of Dad. Mom's side of the family, also, her father was in the war. The in-laws. He also was southern side. He also had a brief instance of capture and torture. But he also got out of it a little easier. But because he wasn't like Dad's dad, my in-law's dad, he wasn't rich, whereas Baz's side of the family was. He had to stay there after the Northerns took over. He was in a small village. That's where we got married. That's where we stayed. He had his own stories about what he thought about the whole operation. He thought it wouldn't trick anybody. As we saw, it didn't. But unfortunately, the people, when he got back home, believed it. They heard of it. They were scared. Trin is one of those second generation here in the story. Gets scared from it. He's a civilian. So, going back to now. Ghost Adventures. He doesn't like it. I'm plotting. I'm like, alright, he's scared of ghosts. This will be funny. So I go to our closet that shares a wall with his closet. And I have a speaker. And it kind of does white noise. And I turned it up about halfway so that he couldn't hear the white noise through the wall. And just every once in a while, like it was like an 8-hour video, I just taped it to put it up against the wall and had it resting against the wall. And I just played this overnight video that randomly it would just knock on the wall. And because it was on the other side, it sounded more muted to him. So...
Oh my God.
So I did that. I wait 2 more weeks. And after he leaves for work, I go into his room and I open his closet door. And then I just leave his room. I did not touch a thing else. I just cracked his closet door enough that it would naturally fall open. And wherever it laid, it laid. And I walked out of his room and I shut it. And But Dad was still home. My in-law. So I quietly, and if you're like a sneaky kid, you know how to quietly shut the door. So I quietly shut the door. I went back into my room and I fell back asleep. I did not get up until 11 in the morning. Trin's already gone. He likes to fish in the morning, then go to work.
Yeah.
Dad gets up to go to work. He gets up, doesn't see anything wrong with Trin's room because Trin's room, his door shut. Comes up to my room, wakes me up again, and he goes, "Hey, I'm going to work. Do you want to come with, all the stuff? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I will come with. I said yes. I didn't really care to go with him to work.
Yeah.
Not because I don't love him or anything, or I wasn't interested in what he does for work. It's just, it's my day off. I don't really want to go to work. But I go with him because that's just going to make it more credible, right?
You had an alibi.
I had an alibi. I'm not home. So we get back home late because something happened. He had to help close or something. We get home late, like 9:30. He's already at home. Trent is already at home. And he comes over to me and he looks mad. Did you open my door? What? Dad steps up to my defense. He woke me up, remember?
Mm-hmm.
No, I woke her up. She didn't touch your room. She went with me to work. She's been gone all day. Why? What happened? My door was open. My closet door was open. And now this part is in Vietnamese. I can't understand.
Yeah.
I can cuss a little bit in Vietnamese, but I don't understand what they're saying. So he's obviously upset. Something's got him ruffled. He goes, okay, fine. And he goes into his room. He says that in English, goes to his room. I go, what's the matter? What happened? I don't understand, so I need Dad to explain it to me. Oh, I think he just forgot that he left his door open, his closet door or something. Like, it was open when he got home, and he said it was shut. And he said, were you in his room? Was Mom in his room?
You're gaslighting the fuck out of him.
I'm gaslighting the fuck out of him.
He thinks he's going crazy at this point.
I know, right? And so I'm like, oh, well, that's weird because, like, I thought he was in his closet last night. I just heard, like, some noise coming from his side of the closet. And he's like, what did you hear? And it's like, I don't know. It sounded like something bumped and fell or something. Remember, I played that knocking video once 2 weeks ago. So Dad tells Trent, Katie heard knocking in your closet last night. Did you go in your closet? Is that when you forgot to close the door? Like, maybe you were tired and you dropped something and then you went to check on whatever you dropped. Trent's like, I was not in my closet last night, but I have heard knocks.
And so begins the Buddhist exorcism.
It begins.
The Buddhist exorcism.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Wait, it actually happened?
Kind of.
Oh, my God.
He did take incense into the room and try to cleanse the room.
With smoke.
Yeah. It's the smell is supposed to...
Yeah, I know all about it.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Well, you can tell the audience. They may know.
The smell is supposed to get the evil spirits out. You open a window, you shut the door, and then you just go from, like, the farthest away from the window, start from there, go to the corners, and then go towards the window, and it should be pushed out. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And then you shut the window, lock it, you're good.
He probably thought it was because you were watching that ghost show.
Yeah, he did. He blamed it on me for watching the show, and I'll go, dude, I've been watching the show for years. Nothing's ever happened to me.
Yeah, you brought that into that. Yeah.
Exactly. So then, and this is also the time where I started to kind of get into Appalachian witchcraft.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So there was a full moon happening later that week. So I go outside, I light a candle, and I'm just writing in a journal. So, like, not actual, like, and I'm, like, floating in the air.
Right.
I'm just literally like, I will make, money. I will have a good job, and I will be happy and successful.
I will be on a podcast.
Well, I wasn't thinking that far ahead. No. I was just thinking about, like, it was COVID, so I'm like, I'm not going to be broke and homeless, So I guess he, like, went, and it was funny that there's funeral music, because what they're saying is Nomoyidafa. Nomoyidafa.
Okay.
It's something we also say when we're passing graveyards. It's like banishing. But it's also a Buddhist saying.
Was it saying it in the video?
It was hard to hear in the video.
It said something at the end. I didn't read it because it was something like that, though. It was like with a V. I couldn't.
It could have been what they were saying. It's like something that they play, and they have like those little
the prayers,
the tiny symbols that they go on the fingers, and they ting.
Yes.
No more yidafa.
And that sound is supposed to
that bell, that frequency, is supposed to banish. Like get that spirit to move and not stick to the land. That's why in Appalachia they go feet first out of the house when they die, so that they don't get stuck in the house. Kind of the same thing with Buddhism. They do these little things to try and get the spirit to go where it needs to go. Well, full moon later that week after the closet door was open. I'm outside, I'm writing my journal, I have a candle lit, and I fold it, and I'm doing my intentions, and I burn it.
So, can I ask a question? Not
Yeah.
to derail you.
Yeah.
Just so the record, and you believe in this stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could...
Be honest.
I do, but not like... I don't believe that it actually changes my life. I think more of it as, like, you're setting goals, kind of like New Year's.
Okay. So you're a believer, right?
But I believe.
I've talked to you. You believe in quite a lot of things.
I believe, like, if I ask for it enough and if I set my goals
No, past that, but ghosts, aliens, and things. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into that, but please continue your story. I don't want to derail you.
So he goes into the altar room, which is a sunroom. That's where Dad's parents are as well. And they're in a photograph, and you burn incense and you pray, and then you go to bed. You leave him alone. Well, I'm in the driveway, and you can see it from the sunroom. And he sees me burn the piece of paper and the candle. And I, let go of it real quick, throw it in the cauldron.
Some witchcraft.
Witchcraft, yeah.
Oh,
so,
no.
Oh, he's mad.
Oh, no.
I'm still outside. He hadn't even prayed yet. He literally just walked in there, saw me do that, and just ran out to the front. And the front door was like 15 feet to my left. And I'm looking down the driveway. So the house is to my left. He's 15 feet to my left. He opens the door and he goes, "I will lock you out here. Don't you do that in the house." I go, "I'm on the driveway." And he goes, "Go to the end. You're not having anything follow you back." And I go, "Trent, I'm not." Whatever. Okay. Yes, sir. Because he's older than me. I'm supposed to be respectful. But I start the argument like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not the reason for it. And then I just go, "Yes, sir." And I take my shit and I go to the end of the driveway, basically in the road, because I'm like petting his head a little bit, like, "Yes, okay, I'll do what you say."
Gaslighting him.
Yes.
You're luring him into a false sense of security.
I'm doing the psyop, yes.
Yeah.
So that night, I don't do anything. But the next night, I go into the closet, and I only do this once.
Is your husband aware of any of
Yes.
this?
Oh, yeah. He helped me with some of it, and that will come up. That will come up. So, yeah, he helped me. He helped me because he had to, because it wouldn't have, he would have caught me if he didn't help me. So, I go to the closet and I scratch the wall. And I had dip nails at the time, and I have them now. And it sounds dramatic.
Like something's...
It's like this. I do that once to the wall, and I run, quietly. Like, I'm not trying to get caught. Shut the closet door. I didn't even turn the light on. Go back into the bed, and I lay down, and I do the trick that I always did with my mom when I had the DS under the pillow, is I would cock myself weird, and then just open my mouth and kind of like get a little bit of spit and put it on the side of my mouth, and I just pretend to be asleep. Nick is at his computer playing, I think, RimWorld at the time. He loves that game.
Yeah.
Good game. So he bursts into the room. I was like that. I was planning on staying like that, but when he bursts in, it would not make sense if I stayed asleep during that noise. So I jerk, and I look around, and then I look at him, and I'm like, "What?" And Nick, he didn't know I did this. He had his headphones on. Takes off his headphones. He goes, "What?" And he goes, "Who do that?" "Who do what?" I'm a Ophamae.
Vietnamese.
Yeah, now Nick's going at him in Vietnamese, like, "We didn't do anything. She's right there. Like, you woke her up. I'm over here. Like, it's 1 a.m. We didn't do shit."
So this guy believes in all this stuff.
Yes.
But he thinks you're doing it. That's interesting. Why doesn't he think it's the ghost? He's in denial.
He doesn't think I'm personally doing it. He wants to believe that I'm personally doing it, that I'm fucking with him, and I am. But he wants to believe with everything in his heart that I'm fucking with him, because he does not want that ghost in that house.
He was traumatized as a child. Yeah.
Yes. But he also believes that I'm bringing these things into the house with what I'm watching and what I'm doing outside.
Sometimes people perceive things and they put them together subconsciously.
Yeah.
And he knew it was you, but he had no way of proving it. It was just a feeling.
Yeah.
It's the same way where someone will know someone murdered someone, but they can't.
I mean, if you really think about it, the shit didn't start happening till I moved in.
Yeah.
So it's me, but whether or not it's something ghost-like attached to me and it's now going to him because of his fear, or if I'm actually fucking with him.
It's your
fault. He
fault.
just doesn't know. It is my fault. He knows in his heart it's my fault, but he doesn't know if I'm fucking with him or if I'm attached to something. So he doesn't know yet. And I'm like, Trent, I was asleep. What's going on? I can't understand you. Do you go in the closet? No. I've been in bed. Okay. Shuts the door. Quieter than he came in. He didn't apologize. That man will never apologize. I'm younger than him. I'm not owed one. He goes back to his room. I hear his door shut. I don't do anything else that night. Now, he gets up in the morning. He's telling Mom about it. And he's freaked out and stuff. I think I got up because I had work. I don't remember. But I go into the kitchen to get a coffee. And he's gesturing. He's very, I guess he's loud about it. But I don't understand what he's saying. And then he looks at me. He goes, huh. And he leaves. And I go, what was that about? What did I do? And she goes, he thinks that you brought a ghost. And here's the thing you got to know about my mother-in-law. She's also down for the bit. My husband's terrified of frogs because she used to go into the creek, grab one and chase them and go, they're poison. They'll give you warts and those will kill you.
Yeah.
So she's down for a bit when a bit's presented. And I look at her and I grin as sinister as I can. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this. And I give her all the details of what I've done so far.
She thought it was funny.
She loved it. She started helping. She was so into it. Is
that the lady? Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So she starts doing this thing where if he is coming home sooner than I expect and I'm in the middle of a bit, she's aware of it. Like, because she's the one that cooks. Mm-hmm. So she needs to know when everyone's coming home so that way she knows when to cook. There was one day I was going to go in there and do something like fuck up his shit, like turn his furniture upside down and all this other shit. Yeah, I was going to do this whole big operation.
Why did it just happen to him and no one else?
Because of his fear.
But why did he think it's just me and it's not
because of his fear?
Because he feared it.
This is his reasoning because he thought that they could like, you know how like you hear bees can smell fear? That's his line of thought, is that the ghost knows I'm terrified. That's why it's doing it to me. Right? So it's the fear, because in his line of thought, if Ophamae moves in and she's doing this stuff, then it's Ophamae's ghost, and I yelled at Ophamae, so it's Ophamae's attack dog. So either way, I'm connected anyway, but he can't tell if it's real or not.
This is more fascinating than anything I was expecting out of you. This is just such a mind fuck.
You didn't expect this.
Because you honestly don't like Trim because he seems kind of like a jerk.
A little bit.
I mean, he's probably not an evil person, but he's just kind of abrasive. And so he's like accusing you of bringing a supernatural entity there, but you're the guilty one. You're the villain of this story.
Yeah.
Yet this is such a mind. I'm trying to put it into words. And you're torturing him, so he has every right to be he's a victim.
Yeah.
Go on.
And I keep gaslighting him. Okay.
How long did it go on? Let me interview you.
Months.
Okay, what's the greatest thing you did, could you say? Because we can't go on.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, the greatest thing
or just fire off things as fast, like instead of like painting a scene, just like you said flipped, like what are the things you did? Like,
I didn't end up flipping his room.
Okay.
She thought that would be way too obvious, and I agreed with Mom. So what I ended up doing was that speaker I aforementioned.
Yeah.
I put that in his closet. I'm tall.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've established this before. He's the taller person in the household, but he's not as tall as I am. I'm still like 5 inches over him. So I put this thing on the second shelf, specifically not the first, because that's, of course, where the first place you'll look. So I put it on the second shelf under some extra bedding. I turned it up a little bit, and then every once in a while I'd go back in there and make sure it was charged. But for like, I spaced these out. Sometimes it was a week. Sometimes it was like I'd give them 3 weeks. Sometimes at one point, the longest I went was 2 months before fucking with them again. But I would randomly just make these. I found actually a video better quality scratches, a little bit of words being said, and then like it sounded like glass breaking, but there's no glass in there, but other than the light. So he'd run in there, turn the light on, and it's fine.
That's good, because the too many voices, that's too obvious. But like, if it were just like styrofoam, like bubbles being popped or something,
yeah,
like it's like,
so
what the fuck is that? Like a can being crushed.
I can't remember. Like, and these were only like 10-second videos. Like, I would literally only play it a little bit at a time and then turn it off.
What happened? Did you get like an ad?
No.
It's like,
I'm so glad I didn't. There was one time where I was in the shower, and usually I would take the speaker in there to the shower. They were eating, and an ad did pop up on the speaker in his closet, but he was at the table, and it sounded, the bathroom where I was showering was right next to his room, so it sounded like it came from the bathroom.
Got you.
So I covered my ass on that one. Then I started using Nick's phone because he had YouTube Premium, so he doesn't get ads. So that did.
You thought of everything.
I thought of everything. This is the part where Nick helped me. I'm in the shower. He's got the phone. I'm listening to music off my phone.
Yeah.
So he's got proof that I'm in the shower, I'm on my phone, but I'm listening to Britney Spears or whatever the fuck at the time.
Yeah.
Nick, after they get done eating, they're cleaning up, and he finds a video where it sounds like a loud crash, and it comes from Trent's room.
Oh my God.
My music didn't pause. The shower didn't pause. I'm in the shower. So this is the turn. This is where he starts to think, oh, it's not her, but it is something else. It is a ghost. After that, Nick became my accomplice with Mom.
No.
Mom was watch. She would keep watch, make sure nothing would happen. Me and Nick were doing the fucking around. At one point, we did have to kind of trickily figure out how to do this, because I was scared that he would start to think it was Nick doing it. So what I had him end up doing is, we were in our room, and we were sitting there, and we were watching the Tennessee game on our TV, and he wanted to come in and see what the score was, because I think he betted on it or something. So him and Dad are in there, and while we're sitting there watching the game, I'm sitting on Nick's lap, and they're sitting on the bed. I hide my phone on my left side where they can't see, and I play the scary sounds again. And I did the knocking one, the like bang, something fell one. Trend turns immediately. Me, Dad, and Nick are all watching the TV screen. Also, Dad was never involved in this. Mom screams. We told her we were going to do this. Yeah. She was supposed to holler anyway, but she was supposed to be in the bathroom. But because they're in there, she just does it from her seat. She's like, oh my God, you know.
By his logic, if it's attacking him, shouldn't he be the one in the wrong?
I don't think he thinks he can do anything.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, no, it started when I moved in, so I'm obviously the issue. The only thing is that I knew he would acquit me. Yeah. Because of the way I was playing it. Yeah. So Mom screams, Dad runs out, Trin runs out, goes to his room to check, and I'm like, what's going on? You know, like, what was that? And I asked Mom if she's okay, and she's like, yeah, I'm fine, that came from in there. And she went in there and opened the door and threw shit out of the closet into the floor. I didn't tell her to do that. I told her to scream.
She found this.
She knew about the speaker in there. She made sure to pull certain areas. Oh, okay. She didn't just take the whole shelves off. She like grabbed a blanket from the right and a pillow from the left and a blanket from the top and, you know, like just a shirt from the left, you know, and then skewed up some stuff. And then the bang happened. You know, she quietly shut the door, screamed, all that stuff. She was like fake crying.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like tears going down her face. Like, what was that?
She must hate Trim.
He's picky about his food, so maybe she does harbor a little feelings.
Yeah.
But he's usually grateful. I think more of it is that she just loves fucking with people as much as I do. So, to make a long, very, very long story short, I fucked up.
Uh-oh.
Mom did the fucking best. He was absolutely convinced at that point that this was real. And that, yes, it had something to do with me, but I'm not the one doing it. But then I fucked up. Mom wasn't home that day. And I thought about flipping the room. And he came home right as I had that mattress up in turn to flip it.
Why didn't you go, there's something making noise in here?
I tried. I was like, something was making noise. This was off the bed. I'm fixing it. And he's like, bullshit. This has been you from the start. I knew this was you from the start.
Oh.
I want you out of this house. And I go, well, you can't kick me out. And he goes, I will talk to Mom and Dad. This is horrible what you've done. And I go, who do you think's been helping me? So he was mad at all of us.
Well, you shouldn't have done that. You threw him under the bus.
Yeah. But, me and Mom have talked about it. Like, she knew we would get caught eventually. And she was just like, tell him it was my idea. I didn't do that. Oh. I just told him that, who do you think's been helping me? That night, there was a family meeting.
What? About the ghost.
About the ghost and about it was actually me doing it this whole time. And at first he accused Dad of...
Poor guy.
Yeah, I know, right? And he is like, this is your household. You had to know what was going on. How could you do this? I've been your best friend since we were kids. And Dad's like, I swear to Buddha, I had no idea this was going on. And, me and Mom are like giving a secret look and he catches it and he's like, so you're the accomplice. And he's like, so when you screamed and cried the other night, and literally it was the other night,
yeah,
that wasn't real. And Mom's like,
But you be like, see, when you're in a situation, let me tutor you. Next time you do something like this, you need to put it all on him. Be like, Trim, why would we have been done this to you? Why do you think we're doing this to you? It's because we don't like you.
Yeah.
We want you out.
Well, he's moved out now.
Yeah, I bet he did.
But I'm actually at this moment right now, I'm trying to convince his daughter that their house that they just bought has speakers built in the house and you Bluetooth to it. I'm trying to convince her to start this back up again.
I want to really
because it's been 3 years since
his
it's
side
happened.
of things.
He won't give it.
But can I get in contact and be like, look, this girl Ophamae is on my podcast.
He's not going to understand you enough.
Look and listen. This is your chance to tell your side of this horrible thing. You were traumatized as a child. This is your Me Too moment to come forward and have a platform where thousands of people will hear your side. Poor Trim.
He, like I said, he's an immigrant.
He's a joke.
He doesn't know enough.
Everyone's laughing at him.
Yeah, we were.
Just be like, here's what I'll say. I'll be like, Trim, do you know Oprah Winfrey? I'm exactly like her. I'm going to uplift children? You. I'll uplift you, Trim. This was... I'm sorry. Is there more?
Oh, there's a little bit left.
Okay, tell me.
Here's the funny part, because now he knows Dad's not in it.
Yes.
And obviously me and Mom are accomplices because we're giggling like hyenas about it. He doesn't suspect Nick. He's like, the men were out of it. The men are good. So, like, it was a little quiet, like, in the house. It was like a fucking Mexican standoff every time Mom and him made eye contact or me and him made eye contact. Like, he couldn't stand us for a little bit. But
I bet
him and Dad and Nick were thick as thieves. Like, anytime me and her were talking and giggling, they're like, what are they planning? And, like, Nick is kind of like a double agent because, yes, he was involved, but they don't think he is. So he's like, what are they planning? Look at him over there snickering. And they're like, they must be up to something. And he goes, what do you think they're up to? And, like, he's, like, still egging them on without them knowing. And so, like, they would be on high alert for something to happen, and then nothing would fucking happen. Like, we never did this again. We literally let it die. But they were constantly getting psyched up by Nick. That's thinking something's going to happen and sitting there tense for, like, weeks, waiting for something to fucking get him. Yeah. And nothing ever did.
He never felt peace in that home again. You changed it.
How do you change a man?
How
do you defeat a man?
I like to say human now because I know people are weird about.
Well, I got a man in this instance.
Yes, you did. Yes.
That was my psyop.
From the United States government perpetuating vampire attacks to Ophamae torturing the victim of a traumatic experience during the Vietnam War. This is the kind of content you can expect. I must say, I am delighted and surprised by your ruthlessness, by your foreplanning, your forethought. You always get caught eventually, though.
Yeah.
You need to understand that. You always get caught.
I'm really good at the setup. It's the long-term execution I fail.
I really did enjoy that. Like, there's no good guys in that story. That's what makes it so good, because you don't like Trim. Yeah. And you're not friends with him. Like, you can't.
I mean, okay, literally, we say hello to each other, and that's it.
How do I get in what's his, does he have a social media?
No, he doesn't even, I mean, he's old enough for it, but he doesn't even have a Facebook.
I'm going to find Trim. Don't be surprised if you come over here.
If you Google Trim, you're going to get 15,000.
Maybe I won't go for a Google.
Oh, yeah. I'll take you to Mom and Dad's house if he's over, and you can try and talk to him. He's not going to understand you, though.
No, I'm going to tell him, like, there are people, we'll get to that later, but
yeah,
I really was delighted by that story. I really was. Well, thank you for coming, Ophamae. I think you and I are destined to be doing this quite a while. I think this is going to go somewhere. I appreciate you coming over.
Well, thank you for having me.
And if you guys have listened to this podcast, thank you. Some of you have been very supportive during my absence from the internet and YouTube, and each week I just want to sit down and I want to learn, explore the internet like I used to during those long nights of playing video games in between matches or traveling to different continents in WoW, where we would just kind of turn on a video and watch something silly or stupid and get our mind off things, or learn something, explore the weird side of the world and the internet that seems to be shrinking with each year, each passing legislation that's censoring more and more content on the internet. But since we're just beginning, we're still getting our social media figured out. I'm going to be on Spotify, obviously. Be on YouTube, obviously. Ophamae's discussed on being on Instagram and TikTok, correct?
Yep.
The Podcast of Doom on both of those. We'll of course, have the links in the description. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm okay.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. And I don't really I'm not good at goodbyes. I've never had a clever way to say bye, but an outro. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.